Hi, my name is Joshua and I'm 12 years old and I'm doing this demonstration for the fishing club that's going to be starting this year. So today I'm going to be showing you how to reline and tie bait on your fishing pole. So first things first, you're going to want to get you a knife or pliers or scissors or anything and cut your line. You're going to want to get your line out from all the eyelets on your pole. The next thing, you're going to want to take the cover off the front of your pole. Get all the line out from that. And a cool trick that I've figured out that I like to use is I like getting a power drill and hooking it up to one of these, and it makes it a lot faster to take all the line off your pole. See if we can get it on here real quick. Get it tied really quick, and there's tons of different baits you can put on. I'll show you those in just a minute and show you all the different lines and stuff that you can use. Let me get this wrapped around. Click your little button back here to release the line. Let's see about this. It just makes it so much quicker and more efficient to get your line off whenever, if you're in a hurry or anything, trying to get your line off, it just makes it so much quicker. Oops, it came untied here. Let me get this tied, wrapped around, and it broke, so let's see if I can't get this wrapped back on here and get it back going. It's just so much more efficient to do it this way. One of the cool things is you can do it fast. It's really nice because you got a ton more speed, and when you have a lot of line on there, it makes it so much faster whenever you want to take all the line off and reline it when it starts getting dry and everything. Almost done. Almost complete the almost. Oh, she's losing her battery. She's starting to slow down. Might have to finish it by hand. There it is. Okay, it just quit. Well, let's cut this. Get that out of our way for now. Let's get this rest of the way off here. And right there. And right in there, I don't know if you can see it or not, but you're going to want to take your knife or anything you're wanting to use. Come on, open up. And cut your line right in there to get it all the way off. Get all that over there. And there's tons of different lines you can use. Berkeley Solution Mono or Trilene or spider wire. For this little reel, you're going to want to use something about like 6 pound, not anything 14. It's just a little bit too much, and it would really bog down and it wouldn't cast very far. So you're going to want to do that. Sorry for the phone, but then you're going to get your line out here. See if I can find the tip of it. And there we go. Let me get that off there like that. And you're going to want to tie it pretty well whenever you stick it on there, so eventually when you do run out of line and have to reline it again, then I've had it do it before, you cast out and can't reel it back in because it went to the very end of your spool. So let me get this tied on here really well. See, then you're going to want to cut off any excess line that you use, so that way whenever you're casting, it doesn't get bound up in there and then it won't want to cast right, and then you'll have to take all your brand new line off and reline So what I'm going to use is Berkeley Solution Mono. It's really smooth casting line. It's been really good in the past. So I'm going to see if we can't get this started on here. Oh no, get on there. Let me get this off my finger. Try to get it to catch on. Come on now, get her out of there. Here we go, it's almost on. Almost, quit binding up on me. That should do it. Come on, get on there. It's kind of hard. What I should have done is before I tied it, I should have put the front back on it. It would have helped guide it on there a little bit more, but this will work. It'll be fine for now. And make sure you don't put not enough line on there. I've done that before too, and then you have to take all that off and reline it again. Just start cranking away and watch it build up. And if you build too much up on there, you'll have to take it off a little bit, because then it'll bunch up from having too much line, and it's just not good, and you wasted a bunch of money on line. See if we can't get it on there a little bit more. And I'll show you some different baits you can put on there for the different fish you'll want to be catching. I've got some grubs, some soft grubs, and some top waters I'll talk about here in just a minute. Let me get this cut. Get that out of the way. Then you're going to want to let a little bit of your line out. Just enough so that way you can get the cover of your reel, get it back on. See if I can get it here. Right there, and you gotta make sure it's all lined up nice or it won't want to go on smooth. Right about there. Now your cover's on. Now it's time to get the line all the way up through all the eyelets on your pole. So you click the button, set it out of the way, and make sure whenever you're gonna line it that it doesn't get all wrapped around, then you line it. I did that once and then had to take my bait off and take it all off again, because whenever you were lining it, or whenever you were trying to cast, it was bunching up and you couldn't get it to go out but like 10 feet, and it just wasn't good. It didn't want to come out very smooth. See if we can get it through this last eyelet, and then I'll get a bait on there and show you how to tie the bait on. Get some extra line out here. Set this over here out of my way. Oh, I got all wrapped up, just like I was saying not to do. Got wrapped up on me. Get this over here. Get the India line. And what I'm going to be using today is a little bitty red jig hook with a green grub that has a little flappy tail on it. But depending on what you're going to be fishing for, whether it's nighttime when the fish are starting to feed, they're coming up, hitting the top of the water, I like to use a top water popper that sits on the top of the water, and you sit there and jerk it a little bit, and in there it gives a little bubble on top of the water, and the fish will come up and grab it. And you can use spoon baits that dive down and shake side to side. They got a little rattle, or a flipping jig that you sit there and it goes across the bottom, and the little skirt on it, it kind of waves around and gets the attention. Or a buzz bait, which is kind of the same thing as a top water, though it goes a little bit faster. That right on the top there that spins, you cast it out, and when it hits the water, you reel it really fast and get it to come up to the top, and that right there, it churns up water a bunch and splashes water everywhere, and it'll get the attention of the fish and get them to come up and bite it. So what I'm going to be using for a little crappie, this works good for crappie because Some of them that we catch are really tiny males that's too big of a bait for something like that. And little bluegill, they're teeny tiny males. It'll work great for them. So what I'm gonna do here is you're gonna wanna loop it through once and tie, like you're gonna start tying a shoelace, like the beginning of a shoelace. Get it on there. Figure out how much line you want off the end. I normally do about that much, so you're not wasting too much line. You put it through a couple times, and then to make sure your bait stays on very well, you're gonna stick it through again. This is just how I do it. You don't have to do it, but I'm just making it like this where you can tie baits more efficiently, and it's a little bit slower than tying it on quick just so you can fish longer. But I would rather tie it on a little bit longer than have to take a long time tying on new baits when you didn't tie it good enough. So that's a really good way to tie it, and it won't break as easily. It's on the bait a lot better. Let's get this tied on there a little bit more. Come on now, get through the hole. There we go. One last time. Then you're gonna wanna cut the excess off, because if you don't, it'll interfere of how your bait works. And especially on something like a buzz bait, it'll get down in your spinner and gum it up, and it won't want to spin. And on baits like these, it'll sit there and get wrapped around your hook, and whenever it's trying to go underwater, it'll ride the top, because these baits float, and the harder you crank them, the deeper they dive. But it'll get around your hook, and it won't go very well at all, and it'll just barely go across the water. And so pretty strong on there. And that is how I like to tie on a bait whenever I'm going to catch little crappie that tug on it a lot. So in conclusion, however big of a reel you're going to be using, just make sure the line isn't too much pounded. This is 14. I'm using 6 so it doesn't overload your reel. Make sure you have nice size line for however big you're using, and make sure your line's good enough for however big a fish you're going to be catching. My name is Joshua Lutz, and let's go catch some fish.